You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're on the hunt for a bit more diversity in Fab Facts.
We are flying into the fashion world in the Randomiser.
Eagle 1 to Moonbase Alpha, John Kenneth Muir, Part 2, coming in for landing.
We're touching down for Pod 189.
And another Space 1999 pun for the Gerry Anderson podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Greetings and salutations.
Yes.
I love it. It makes you laugh when I actually read something from the script.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's so unusual.
We never normally... Well, I mean, we stick to the format of the script, but we don't say the words. I'll read my line from the
Okay,
script.
go
Hello!
There you go. You see,
That's
it's
it.
easy.
Yeah, so see...
It takes the uncertainty out of it if we just stick to the script.
Yeah, but if we did Podsteron, I can tell you that I would have said hello, Richard would have said greetings and salutations, and then I would have introduced Fab Facts, and that's it. All this stuff
Straight away,
that we
yeah.
say up front every week is completely ad-libbed.
Oh, I know. Would you believe it?
Yeah.
Because it sounds so polished.
Yes, it does. Okay, now look, my name is Jamie Anderson, and I am one of your co-hosts, and I'm ably co-hosted by the other co-host, whose name is...
My name
Yes.
is Richard James.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were just going to say my name and carry on. Richard James. You were doing a Michael Caine impression.
I was
see.
attempting to head in that direction.
It was
yes.
very convincing.
Thank you very much.
Now, we are also ably assisted every week by the Randomiser, also known as Chris Dale, who this week...
What's he up to?
Well, it looks like he's holding a rather hefty-looking book in one hand.
Yeah.
And counting grains of sand with a pair of tweezers with the other.
What? What is he up to?
I know exactly what he's up to.
What's
He's
that?
trying to answer the age-old philosophical question of when a group of grains of sand becomes a pile.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
It makes
I
perfect
can tell him
sense.
that now.
Well,
I can tell him.
Don't spoil his fun. I mean, just whisper it to me so I know.
All right.
When it's big enough.
Oh,
Yeah,
you see, this is
Come on.
It's all about the question you answer. He's thinking about the number of grains. You're thinking about the size,
I
as
see,
you always do.
yes.
Now, Chris, once he's finished, will maybe have an answer for us about this long argued philosophical question. But he'll also be presenting us with a randomizer at the end of this episode, where he presses the big red button on his randomizer, selects a random episode from a random Gerry Anderson series or even film, and gives us his amusing and insightful comments on it. But between now and that, which comes at the end of the podcast, there's all this other stuff, which Richard James, not Richard Games, which Richard James will present to you now.
Fab facts, news, interview, Podsterons. All right? There you go. There's no point in dressing it up. It is what it is.
There's a man who's had enough of this podcast. Yes, well, all those exciting things, as ably described by Richard, will be coming up.
Thank you.
Dear oh me. Dear oh me. Dearie me.
Oh, dear oh me.
Oh, dear oh me. I've gone a bit, yeah. Right, look, anyway, let's do some Fab Facts, because I've got a book
Go
of
on,
Fab
then.
Facts here, so let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Fab Facts.
Oh, yes.
Well, I was just doing it in the style of you, where we just go straight into it and don't actually say
I
anything
see.
good about it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah.
go on then.
So, all right, fine. For the first week ever, I'm not going to describe what it is. How's that?
Wow. Oh, that's a bit weird. Okay.
Are you ready, Richard?
Well, what if people haven't listened before? It'll just be like you're spouting nonsense.
They'll catch up, and yes, people who have listened before
Okay.
will agree with you that that's the case. So, are you ready?
Go on then. Okay, I think so, yes.
Here we go.
Fab!
Ooh, very good, very good, very good. Now,
Right.
from the Book of Fab Facts, here is
Yes.
this week's Fab Fact.
Okay.
Lieutenant Green and Captain Scarlet was famous for being a non-white character in a major role at a time when television, and the entire television industry really, was somewhat more driven by stereotypes and a bit of what we would now refer to, I guess, as whitewashing.
Okay, yeah.
But in all of Dad's live-action series, and Captain Scarlet, you will probably have noticed that he made a great effort to continue pushing for diversity by including more people of colour, such as Nina Barry in UFO and David Kano in Space 1999. But did you know that a major alien character was very nearly played by a black actor?
Right.
Fred Freiberger, a name that many of you will be very fond of. In an interview
you say many.
Which 2 or 3 of you may be very fond of, in an interview after Space 1999's cancellation, revealed that his first choice for the role of Maya was Teresa Graves. Now, Graves was a regular on the American series Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, starred with David Niven in the cult film Vampira,
right,
and even had one series of her own, Get Christy Love, in which she played an undercover detective.
Okay.
It was only the second series ever to feature an African-American female as leading character, but unfortunately for Fred, Graves passed on the role in Space 1999 and then soon retired from acting altogether in order to focus on her faith and human rights activism.
Okay.
All very noble causes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
ITC's Abe Mandel recommended Catherine Schell, and the rest, of course, as they always say, is history.
Yeah.
But it certainly would have been different to have another American alongside Martin Landau and Barbara Bain in a leading role, wouldn't it?
Would it? I suppose.
Yeah, I think it would have been. But so somewhere out there in the multiverse is an alternate dimension where Space 1999 was not only renewed for a 3rd season, but there was also a Maya spin-off, but starring Teresa Graves instead of Catherine Schell. Imagine
finish,
that.
Where are you?
Yeah. Exactly. Now, sadly, Graves passed away after a house fire in 2002, and she was only 54.
Gosh. Oh,
goodness
dear.
me! But she is still remembered for her pioneering work in television and human rights activism to this day.
Well, let's pay tribute to Teresa then. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And what an interesting life she must have led.
Absolutely. And again, obviously we all love Catherine Schell, and she was brilliant as Maya, but it would have been very, very different. And as many of you will remember, I think, diversity is possibly a discussion that comes up and people often roll their eyes, they feel it's a bit forced or whatever, but you only have to listen to the chat we had with Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong back, was that 18 months ago? Must have been something like
Must
that.
Be, correct.
Where they both said just how important it was to them as kids to see faces like their own on these TV shows. So really important stuff, and not to be underestimated in the effect that it had. But yes, imagine how different Space 1999 could have been, eh?
Yes, well, I always love these kind of shadow castings that might have happened, because, of course, we can always say that, can't we? We can always say, imagine if. Imagine if Teresa Graves had got the part and played it fantastically for that 2nd series, and then we'd got wind of the fact that perhaps Catherine Schell had been offered it, but turned it down. We'd now be saying, imagine a Series 2 of Space 1999 with Catherine Schell as Maya.
I love these imagined, then imaginary things. Very meta.
Yeah, isn't it?
You get the Space 1999 reference there.
Yeah, that was very
meta.
good. Yes, I liked it. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Okay, well, I feel like that was an underappreciated little pun there, but never mind.
Well, I don't know what more you were expecting, to be honest.
A small round of applause, but possibly it would have been nice.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind. Okay, well, that, though, I think, is quite an interesting, very short, but fascinating end to this week's
Teresa
Fact!
There you go. Well, how lovely to pay tribute to Teresa Graves. That's rather nice, isn't it? I shall have a quick Google and learn more about her, I think.
Yeah, do it.
Now, we'll be hearing, of course, from our Podsterons throughout this entire podcast. Because not only have they been posting on our Facebook group, not only have they been posting on Twitter and YouTube, but they've also been sending in their emails. They do it every week, without fail, to... podcast. You see?
Come on.
I know. So, podcast at gerryanderson.com. So, for example, Paul Hyde. Now, you asked a few weeks ago, Jamie, who would like to meet up in Slough, of all places?
Did I say Slough?
Well, you did?
Okay, good.
Well, Paul Hyde, he's up for it. He says, yes, please, I would love to meet up in Slough and also take part in the Birmingham concert. I'd love the chance to meet you and see how funny it will be to watch the podcast being made. Count me in. So, now this is your...
I can assure you it's not funny.
No, but this is your perhaps rash idea, Jamie, isn't it, to have a live recorded podcast at the Stand By for Action concert in April.
Yes.
We'll see, shall we? We'll see.
No, we won't see. We'll just do it.
Oh, okay. Wayne. Now, this is a funny one. It says, Dear Jamie, many years ago, probably about 1997, as a painter and decorator, I was employed to do some finishing work required on your parents' property that had recently been renovated. He says, you will be aware of the one.
I am very aware of the one, yes.
Okay, it says, at the time, various architects and others would employ me independently to sort out outstanding problems efficiently. And when I saw my list, which went into a second week of work for two of us, I knew the client was a details man. I did not realise who we were working with for some days because your dad was away, I guess. Aware not to cross boundaries by the particular nature of my job, as in people wanted me or us in, out and gone, I just had to tell your dad in passing that my favourite programme of the time was repeats of UFO, which I videotaped to watch. I added, I watched them 2 in a row and I loved relaxing and watching them. I was a stressed single parent. I didn't mention that. He says, he looked at me a bit wry and said, I wish I'd found them relaxing to make. They were certainly anything but.
That sounds
anyway,
about
says
right.
Wayne, he says, I recently purchased a box set of UFO to watch. There are those amazing details and attention to detail of a future world that he was so brilliant at envisioning. Aliens, best avoided, of course. All the best from Wayne. Wow.
Thanks for that, Wayne. Brilliant.
That's nice, isn't it? Someone who's actually been in your house, Jamie.
Well, Wayne may well
scary.
have painted my bedroom.
There's a thought.
How
Did he
strange.
put the little spaceships around the light fitting and all that?
Probably. Yeah, all that.
Sweet, isn't it? So, the production of UFO then was not without its problems, obviously.
Well, no, it was their first foray into a full live-action series, wasn't it? So I think it was plagued with all sorts of problems and stresses and strains.
Yes.
So, in fact, we've been looking at some of them for the documentary from around that period, and some, personal things that were probably catalysed by the stresses and strains of UFO. So, yeah, an interesting time for Dad in his life and career.
Yeah. Relax, everybody. We've heard from Phil Steer. Here's a nice email from Phil.
Steer?
Yeah, here we go. He says, Hi, Jamie, Richard and Chris. He says, a belated Happy New Year to you and all the Podsterons. Just a few random observations that really belong in the Facebook group, but as I'm not on Facebook, I'm emailing them to you instead. Brackets, but with no expectation of any of them being read out in the podcast.
Well, in that case, Phil Steer, we'll just move on to the next email.
No, we can't do that. We can't do that. So, firstly, he says, I saw this drawing of Patrick Troughton in the Christmas Radio Times, and it immediately reminded me of someone. Perhaps it's just me, but I think our esteemed co-host could easily recreate the role of the Second Doctor.
Chris Dale?
Zoe?
Oh, sorry, you. Yes.
Oh, come on.
Absolutely, you nail it.
Secondly, he says, in the BBC Radio 4 comedy Henry Normal, the eponymous host talks a little about an Anderson show from his childhood, and he says, I've always been interested in space ever since I watched Fireball XL5. Did you used to watch that? He asks the audience. If you're thinking about safety, it's not the best name for a spaceship, is it? Fireball. And he says, they never say what happened to Fireball XL1, Fireball XL2, 3 and 4, do they?
Well, they do,
Well, do they?
don't they? I think, yeah. There's other XL craft, and even in Captain Scarlet, there are XL craft in the John Thaden Spectrum files.
Great.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
And a third point, he says the BBC has a randomiser. To quote from the description of the new Radio 4 series Past Forward, A Century of Sound, marking the centenary, Past Forward uses a random date generator to alight somewhere in the BBC's vast archive over the past 100 years. What's happened? Have they stolen the plans for Chris's randomiser, or even the randomiser itself? Could it be that we've heard the last of Chris's forays into the Anderson archive? I hope not. With best wishes from Phil.
No, I've asked Chris about this, and he has in fact provided them with a prototype of our randomiser, which was only capable of producing dates rather than picking specific episodes. So they've got an inferior model.
Well, that makes absolute sense. Andrew says it warms my heart to see continued interest in the worlds that Gerry Anderson and so many other talented people created so long ago. For my part, though, I'm chuffed beyond words to be in a position to contribute something that has the potential to make people go, Would you like to know more, Jamie?
Yes, I love things.
Andrew says, as part of my efforts to develop an architectural virtual reality workflow, the various props and sets from Space 1999 have proved to be the perfect subject matter for me to learn the ins and outs of the Unity game engine. That and the encouragement of like-minded fans has resulted in this virtual experience growing far beyond my wildest expectations. I've been posting work-in-progress workthroughs on YouTube, but if you have access to a PC-based virtual reality headset, I encourage you to dive in and be wowed. He says, in my youth, I was weaned on the Space 1999 Viewmaster discs. We all remember those. So all of this feels inevitable to me, but you have the means and the inclination. And you can see the latest YouTube walkthrough on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Space 1999 VR Work in Progress Update 9. And he says, personally, nice. I'd love to see the two of you do a podcast from inside a virtual set of Main Mission. Keep up the great work from Andrew. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
We could wear our Space 1999 cosplay shirts, couldn't we?
Yes, definitely. Yes. But it's a lovely thing. Do search for it on YouTube and have a look. It's really detailed. It's exquisite. It's just like you're walking around Main Mission on the moon there. It's fantastic.
Oh, lovely stuff.
Yeah. And finally, it's always nice, and we haven't heard from him for a while, to hear from Big Al. Alex Pass, who's got in touch to say to Jamie and Richard of the Gerry Anderson podcast, or is it Richard and Jamie of the Officer Orin podcast?
Well, I think we both know the answer to that, don't we?
Yes, he says maybe that's an idea for a special in 2024. It'll soon come round. Yeah.
You're right,
great.
It will.
Christmas 2021 was not a great time, he says, as we lost my father the week before. I'm sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that.
And he says 2022 hasn't gone much better so far, as COVID has messed us about once again. But I'm pleased to say that you fellas and the various wonderful worlds of Gerry Anderson continue to keep me smiling. I still managed to watch a couple of the usual seasonal favourites, but it was the latest interviews on the subject of Anderson toys that were especially uplifting, as I reminisce about our time making a rather large sidewinder out of cardboard, string, and a lot of plastic cups, repairing broken trees on Tracy Island, and a possibly sacrilegious paint job on a UFO interceptor. He says, well, they are supposed to be white.
Yeah. That is true, not that weird metallic-y, limey, greeny.
That's right. So he says, now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to find that battered old TARDIS console. And he says, cheers, Dad, cheers, Gerry, and cheers to all of you. P.S. He says, the UFO comic anthology is a bit big to stick on the fridge, but still looks amazing. Congrats to all involved. And that's from Big Al. Well, thank you for that, Al. Thanks so much for getting in touch. Sorry to hear your bad news about your dad, but glad that perhaps the worlds of Gerry Anderson have provided a little bit of comfort in difficult times.
That's the idea, and that's what we like to hear. So thank you, Al.
Exactly. That's right. Keep them coming in. podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I'll read out your emails next time.
Perfect. Well, while we wait for some of those to flood in, I think we should tackle some Gerry Anderson news.
Cool.
Yes, it's the weekly dose of Gerry Anderson
news.
Oh, you went extra newsy there. Good.
Well, why not?
Well, fine. Well, off we go. Let's start with this. So let's start with 3 brand new t-shirt designs which launched today.
Oh, exciting.
Ooh, 1 Space 1999, 2 Thunderbirds. You'll have to go to shop.gerryanderson.com to look there. But I can tell you that over the next few weeks we're going to be saying goodbye to even more designs and welcoming some new ones along while we bring in some refreshed designs, logos, emblems and all sorts of other stuff to give you a more exciting and Anderson-y 2022, I guess. Speaking of which, again, I think I mentioned last week, the Stun Gun and Comlock kit from MPC is available to pre-order, heading over to the UK right now, and we'll be dispatching in February. This week, finally, hopefully, we will be making an announcement about the concert and our special guest, dare I say, host? Anyway, you'll have to wait and see, but that should be coming this week. I'm very excited. That host is going to be great.
Looking forward to that.
And next week, you will see the launch of our next audiobook in the John Thaden audiobook full-cast iterations, and it will be Stingray, Monster from the Deep. Ooh. Sounds great. It's a fantastic story. Last Stingray sold out super fast. In fact, we've had to do a reprint. So if that's something to go by, then you'll definitely enjoy Monster from the Deep. Great to hear Mark Silk Wayne Forrester, Nick Briggs, and the brilliant Jules DeYoung, previous guest on the podcast, coming together there with some lovely music by Benji Clifford and sound design by Toby Robinson. Absolutely fantastic. Well done, gang, and I can't wait for you all to hear it.
Nice.
It's a nice, short and sweet one this week, but I think that's probably the end of this week's Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news. Very exciting news.
Always exciting every week.
Isn't
Almost without fail. Almost
without fail.
Almost.
So you mean that there was perhaps a week where it wasn't quite so exciting?
Oh, I think there are probably a couple of weeks where we've had less exciting stuff, but
how dare you? Now, just a quick reminder to our lovely Podsterons. If you're listening now, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can leave us a lovely review and a rating if you'd be so kind to let other listeners know what you think of us. And you can copy the link on all your social medias, your Twitters and your Facebooks, your Periscopes. Is that still a thing? I don't know. Your Parlors. Are people on that? I don't know. That's a bit right-wing, isn't it? Anyway, leave it there. Let people know you're listening to us and they might join in.
I love
What did I say?
I just all the different platforms that you were going through, and then you're like,
I don't know.
Yeah, put it on Vine, on MySpace. Although MySpace still exists, doesn't it?
I miss MySpace. You used to be able to change the colour of your profile and everything.
Yeah,
Do
I
it
never
up
really
nicely.
did MySpace, to be honest.
No, a bit before your time, wasn't it? Bit
Well,
after.
not behind my time, but I just didn't do it.
No, fair enough.
Anyway,
Yes,
move
come
along.
Now, well, in that case, I'm going to head on over to our Facebook group. Our lovely Podsterons have been posting pictures and cosplays and so on. Keith Gooch, for example, said the postman brought another treat today, the Captain Alan Carter with Alpha Moonbuggy set from 1612, which I bought through the Gerry Anderson store.
Nice.
He says, although tempted, these figures will not be removed from the packaging and played with. They'll simply be put in my collection of Andorabilia and admired from time to time. Hopefully, my family can profit from them when I'm gone.
Oh, that's a nice gesture, isn't it?
It's a strange gesture, isn't it?
It's both.
I don't buy things for my children to play with when I'm gone. I want to play with them now.
That's true. I've seen your collection of Doctor Who
Yes.
figurines.
Exactly, yes. And they're all mine, I tell you. Roger Smith posted a link to a rather interesting eBay listing. And he provided a rather handy picture of Steve Zodiac's 12-inch long Fireball XL5.
Oh,
Now,
very good.
have a little guess. What would you be prepared to pay for that, do you think?
Is it mint in box?
It is.
Ooh, I'm going to say £390.
Well, how about $25,000?
No, I would
Yes,
not be
well-
willing to pay that.
There you go. That's what it's listed as on eBay.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? But, I mean, the icing on that, perhaps that's not so bad. What I would really object to is the $14 shipping.
What?
Yeah, that's extortionate.
That would tip you over the edge, wouldn't it? $25,000 is fine, but not $25,014.
Exactly. David Lee Summers says, I received a late Christmas present today. My wife presented me with a copy of the Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual, and now I can find my way around the Moonbase. Turns out
goodness.
a copy had arrived before Christmas, he says, but sadly it had been seriously damaged at some point on its journey to us. But thanks so much to Louise and the excellent customer service team at jerryanderson.com for making sure a great replacement copy arrived.
Hurrah.
Well done, them. He also said, I recently downloaded the Space Precinct audiobooks by Richard James. And he shares his thoughts on his blog. Overall, he says, these were a lot of fun, and I especially enjoyed the background I gained from the unfilmed episode Demeter City.
Yes, it's a good one.
Pilot, that's right. Nadia Eugene says, hi guys, I don't remember which interview it came from. I thought it was from Shane Rimmer, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember it was mentioned that Peter Dineley acted almost like a father figure towards the other voice artists during recording of Thunderbirds, like a certain guy named Bill Paxton, she says, from the movie. But now, if this doesn't radiate dad energy, says Nadia, then I don't know what does. That's sweet, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
on Space Precinct, we had Jerome Willis, of course, who was very much our sort of father figure,
Yeah.
which led me to think, am I the father figure in this podcast? That's a bit awkward, isn't it?
No, I think you're the wayward older brother in this podcast.
Okay,
you think?
I can live with that.
Yeah.
This is Hannah again, who's got in touch about Terrorhawks, saying, a message to Richard and Jamie and Terrorhawks fans. I'm already halfway through season 2 of Terrorhawks.
Oh, good.
And I'm already thinking of giving a listen to the audio series. However, after hearing what Jamie has said about Volume 3, I feel I want to just skip the first 2.
No!
But she says I'm guessing I need to listen from the start.
We don't need to, but for goodness sake, Hannah, you've got to listen to the beginning because season 3 is built up from the first 2. So yeah, you've got to start from the beginning.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. Yeah, that's what Matthew Mayhew posted. As someone that came to the series from the audio version, says Matthew, I would say start from the beginning of the series and work your way through. The start of Series 3 resolves a cliffhanger to the last episode of Series 2, which, if you don't listen to, destroys one of the best storylines I have seen.
Oh, there you go. Or heard, in fact.
Yeah, indeed.
But I like the fact that he said seen, because that must mean that we're painting some nice visual images in his mind. So good stuff.
Which is exactly what happens. It's interesting. I saw in the news this week that Star Trek Picard are releasing full cast audio adventures.
Oh, really?
Featuring, I think, Jerry Ryan and other actors from the series. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
They're all in on it, yeah. And finally, Robert Monk says, right, I got down on my knees and begged the wife, and I will be attending Stand By for Action.
Yes!
So that's good, isn't it? So we'll see you there, Robert. Do let us know if you're coming. I know lots on the Facebook group are excited about that. So let us know if you're coming to Stand By for Action in April.
I'll let you know a secret, Richard.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going.
What?
I know. You wouldn't have expected it.
Is that the surprise guest announcement?
No, that's not the surprise guest. In fact, it's possible. This week, I expect now, finally, we can do our surprise guest announcement, I believe.
Okay.
May have happened in the news, possibly.
All right.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll find out very, very soon. It's very, very cool.
Now, someone who may be there, and I'm sure you'd want to have a quiet word with, Jamie, is Tom Hodden.
Oh, no.
Well, you might remember last week I was taking some screenshots of his Quickfire 5s.
I do remember that, yes, quite vividly.
Well, here they are for you right now.
Yeah.
Jamie, these are quite simple. Would you rather have an adventure with the supercar gang or solve a mystery with Lady P?
Oh, mystery with Penny for sure.
Yeah. Would you rather employ Parker as a chauffeur or be able to find an SPV whenever you need one?
Limitless SPVs, please.
Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Would you rather have Tracy Island to yourself or have a party at Moonbase Alpha?
Oh, Moonbase party, 100%. Although not on 13th of September.
Well, quite so. Would you rather be indestructible but have to work for Spectrum or have magical powers but have to police Four Feather Falls?
Oh, indestructible, I think that's quite fun, isn't it?
Okay. Now, I like this one. Would you rather have flashing portraits every time you answer a Zoom call or have to go through the Stingray launch sequence every time you get in your car?
That Stingray would be cool for a bit, but you get bored of it, so I'm going flashing portraits, thanks.
There we go. And that's this week's Quickfire 5.
Goodness me. Thank you, Tom Hodden, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Of course you do. Yeah. Sweet.
Anyway, that's put me in the mood for a rest.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't mind, I think I'd like to hand over to Ben Page and John Kenneth Muir. Would that be okay?
All right. I think that's a fine idea.
If you didn't hear last week, John Kenneth Muir is a Space 1999 superfan, author, novelist, and Mattel Eagle owner.
Oh, is he now?
Oh, yes.
I see.
And he's back with Ben for part 2 of 3 of their chat about all things Space 1999.
Now, we've mostly been focusing on year 1 of Space 1999. We haven't really addressed the big controversy in the room, which is year 2. Now, of course, you wrote about both in your book, Exploring Space 1999.
Right.
But tell me a little bit about, did you watch year 2 as it was coming out in anticipation?
I did. I was super excited for year 2. And again, I was 6, 7, something like that. And I loved year 2 at that time. Mm-hmm. I remember running around my house with a toy comm lock and recreating the beta cloud, pretending I was locking doors as I would, with the comm lock, computer close to it, that kind of. And I loved the character of Maya. I thought she was a fantastic addition to the show. I'm sure I had questions, where did Victor go and where did Paul go and things like that. But I don't know if those were paramount in my mind at the time, being a little kid. But I loved it. I loved the action-adventure component of it, although I was aware it was very different. I think I had been sort of conditioned, maybe, to think those things were good. You know how things are. When you come out and say, like, everybody's saying this year is better, all the magazines were like, this is going to be an improvement. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say anything bad about Space 1999.
No, this is a safe space to be honest.
I prefer year 1. I think I believe Catherine Schell was absolutely brilliant as Maya. I think she could have actually fit into a more year one type approach.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to have year 2 of Space 1999 and have those 24 episodes. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to Johnny Byrne, and he made it very clear to me when I interviewed him. He said, John, you say whatever you want about Freddie Freiberger, but there would not have been 24 additional episodes of Space 1999 without him, and without those changes. Take aside what you think of those changes, that would not exist.
Yeah.
So
you definitely have to take it on its own terms.
Absolutely. I feel like they went in a direction that was more mainstream instead of seeing sort of the beauty and how oddball and different Space 1999 was. I mean, some of those stories I like very much. I mean, I remember watching the 2-parter Bringers of Wonder with my whole family, and sort of how amazing those monsters seemed at the time because you kind of see their veins pulsating.
Right. Yeah.
And so like that was pretty out there. I liked. There were various episodes I liked, The Exiles, things like that. Uh-huh. As a 52-year-old, I don't tend to go back and revisit those as much. Yeah. It's harder for me to go back to those.
They don't have quite the staying power, perhaps.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think Martin Landau may have said this in some interview, so I hope I'm not ripping off what he said. I hope I'm not plagiarizing what he said, but I think I am. I think that he said Space 1999 Year 1 was ahead of its time, and Space 1999 Year 2 was a product of its time. And I think that's a good way to look at it, and I don't think there's any shame in that.
No, definitely.
And if you look at Space 1999, even Year 2, it was far ahead of what American television was doing.
Oh, sure.
We're talking about competing with something like Man from Atlantis or something.
Right, yeah.
So I mean, there are glories to be found there. I just think it's in a paradigm that is intrinsically not as intriguing to me.
Sure.
I understand that there are many people who prefer Year 2, and that's great. I'm not here to tell anybody not to enjoy what they like.
Mm-hmm. Now, this would be, if this was a video podcast, the answer to this question would be self-evident, because there's comics on the walls and all sorts of things. But did you enjoy any of the tie-in media to Space 1999?
Oh my gosh.
Or the toys?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You'd see. So I've got my Mattel Eagle right there. With
the holy grail of toy collecting.
Right. And there's the box on the wall.
Uh-huh. Now, is that original to your childhood?
Yes.
Or did you have to go back and find these later?
That is original to my childhood.
That's amazing.
Yes. I've kept it's starting to yellow. And I know there are people who customize and paint these things. But again, I'm not nearly skilled enough to do that.
Yeah.
Over there you have some jigsaw puzzles, the Space 99 Moonbase Alpha headquarters. Mm-hmm. We've got the Charlton comics, some comics up there. and right behind me, Space 1999 color forms, the Remco stun gun, the trading cards, some action figures, the mammoth model Space 1999 Eagle, which I have not put together.
Yeah.
I don't think I could put that together.
It's a little intimidating.
It is, but I mean, that was... don't want to sound crazy, but Space 1999 was really the center of my life when that was on. It really was. It was the thing that sparked my imagination. It's the thing. I mean, I wanted to write additional adventures. I wanted to tell more of the story. I wanted to be in the story. I wanted to be in that world.
Yeah.
And for years after it was over, I thought, I mean, this is a crazy thing to say, but I thought, well, whatever happened to Moonbase Alpha? How can my life go on? I don't know what happened to Moonbase Alpha.
The story never ended.
Right.
There's no conclusion or anything. So,
which is sad. And over there, I got some Space 99 action figures. So yes, I loved the tie-ins. I read all the novelizations.
That was all part of the experience.
It was part of the experience for me. I sort of lived, ate, and breathed Space 1999 for a good long time there. And I was very happy.
Yeah.
Happy.
So, over the course of time, you got older. Right. When did writing, you talked about wanting to be part of the story and to tell the story. When did writing become part of your life? Because you are a professional writer. Right.
So, for me, I began to write all kinds of stories began writing that in the early 80s. And then I began to make my own really terrible, but they're close to my heart, amateur films. Mm-hmm. I made a bunch of these films about like the intergalactic police. I mean, of course they're terrible. I was, things like that. I made a movie called Rock and Roll Vampires from Hell, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I was writing the scripts. I was making these movies with my friends. Mm-hmm. I remember
8mm cameras.
They were actually. It was actually, and so it looked like trash. It was video.
Early video.
Early
wow.
video. I had this huge video camera with like a deck that you had like sort of in a pack, over your shoulder, and you could audio dub right into it.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love that.
State of the art.
It was
at the time.
It was. I remember very clearly going to. I think it was Nutley, New Jersey, because it was like in the Want-Ad Press or something like that. Someone was selling that camera, and that's really what I wanted. And going there, and my dad, buying it for me, and then having that, and then creating that. Creating the films using that camera and that deck. Mm-hmm. So the audio dub allowed me at sometimes to like dub in music,
right?
What have you, things like that. So, so like already I was like way ahead of what other people were doing. All the other kids in the neighborhood forget it. My movies were the best, right?
So your impulse initially was kind of to be a filmmaker in that way. You started off writing in order to make your films,
right. But that is a costly and difficult enterprise.
Yes.
And I do remember in 1986, WPIX began retransmitting Space 1999 episodes, probably like 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. But I was an insomniac. I had a lot of anxiety about school and the future and things like that. So like I would get up at 2 a.m. and watch Space 1999. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm watching them as a teenager now, and I'm going to like write reviews of the episodes. So like I actually reviewed 2 of the episodes. Rules of Luton was on, and I can't remember the other one I reviewed. And I thought, I'm just going to write this as a book. And then I just put it down. But then like years later, I was like, when I got the laser discs, and my wife was like, these laser discs are really expensive. I was like, yeah, I better write a book about that. I'm writing a book. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're gonna write a book to pay for the laser discs.
Exactly.
Right.
And they have many times over, which is so nice. And I've still got the laser disc. I don't have a laser disc player, but I've still got the laser discs.
So did you? What was your first encounter with criticism? Were you regularly reading the paper or Starlog or any of those things?
Yes. Yeah. I was an avid reader of things like Starlog and Fangoria and Fantastic Films and Cinefantastique. I watched At the Movies with Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. Anything like that. I read reviews in the New York Times, in the Star Ledger in New Jersey. So when a film opened, I would read the reviews. Absolutely. I just became fascinated, and I knew by the 6th grade that I wanted to be a film critic. I thought that's what I want to do. But I thought, I don't like the term film critic because it has a negative connotation. I want to be somebody who appreciates art. I want to be somebody who points out like how great something is, not how terrible something is.
Yeah.
So
and spreads that joy to other people.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
Talk to me about like bridging that gap. So you wrote these reviews, and you knew you wanted to be a film critic. So what's your first step?
Well, I went to college at the University of Richmond, and I was really obnoxious, and I pursued the film professor and said, this is what I want to do. And he arranged for me to take independent studies in film classes. Of course, it was hard because it was film classes like masterpieces of the French cinema. So not exactly, Space 1999 or Star Trek. But I got to see all of these films. I got to learn the grammar, and that gave me the language to operate.
Right.
That gave me the vocabulary, the vernacular, whatever you want to say, to be able to write about film and television. And, and he's still alive, so I wouldn't say he's rolling in his grave, but, he was horrified that I would apply. Here we are watching, Grand Illusion and, Renoir films and all this stuff. And, but how does this apply to Space 1999?
Let's take this and put it on the lens of Dragon's Domain.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I thought, that's my niche right there. And now I have the language to do it. Mm-hmm. So that was the first step. And then the next step was this, quote unquote research. One of the most amazing experiences of my life was sort of hunting down these laser discs to get them all. Mm-hmm. Getting a laser disc player, which was expensive. Finding, the Space 1999, these volumes, in clearance bins at Tower Records, right?
Right. Yeah.
and places like that. And then I found some place in Georgia that had like all of them. I should have brought it out. I still have those invoices somewhere. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of them.
Uh-huh. Did you ship them up from Georgia, or did you make an expedition?
No, I shipped them up from Georgia. My wife's like, every 2 days we're getting these laser discs. You know, and they're $45 a head, you know, and we're starting out in our lives, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm going to write a book. So, you know, we watched them all. I knew I wanted to do it. And she was like, well, what are you going to do about this? I'm like, I'm going to find 5 publishers. I'm going to do my research and find 5 publishers. And I'm going to write an introduction, a table of contents, and I'm going to push to do this. And I chose very wisely because one of those 5 was McFarland here in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I heard from them. They said, let's do it. I thought, wow.
This was, with no prior publishing?
With no prior publishing.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. They liked what they saw. They gave me some strict rules. They wouldn't let me call it what I wanted to, which was attention all sections alpha. Mm-hmm. They said, no, we can't use that. And said, you can't really.
Did they want to have the title in the?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. So then I also had to go get, and I learned so much from that because I had to go get the permission to republish Isaac Asimov's article. So I interfaced with the New York Times. I bought that so that it could be included in the book, that review, because I felt it was so important.
Yeah.
And then I just learned the process with it and
teaching you a ton of journalistic skills.
Absolutely.
Tracking down that information and the sources.
Right. I mean, I remember I contacted, I didn't know much. I was 23, 24 at the time. And I remember contacting all the fan clubs because I wanted to talk to Martin Landau and Barbara Bain and Nick Tate. And I never heard back from anybody except Catherine Schell. So I got the interview with Catherine Schell.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. I must have sweated, several gallons that day. No, I was going to talk to Catherine Schell on the phone. Oh my gosh, childhood hero. Mm-hmm. And so that was
she's such a kind person.
She is. She was absolutely lovely. And then it was very nice, later in my career to be able to interview Martin Landau, which I did for a magazine article, and to interview Johnny Byrne and Brian Johnson, people like that. So that was quite amazing. But, I just didn't really know what I was doing when I wrote my first book because I was so young. I'd never done it before. So it was really trial and error. And, oftentimes I think, that's the book. I mean, 'cause it that sort of put me on the map that started my career. It was my first book. And I think, but I wish I had saved it for my 3rd or 4th book because maybe I could have done it better.
Right, yeah.
It's like, I knew more later. It's like, I would love to, revisit that. And I have all this other stuff, all these interviews I've done over, 20 years, things like that.
Is it like the Future Noir book, the Blade Runner book, that there's been expanded editions over the years, or are you?
I wish. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. I always wish I have because, it's mired, sort of in 1990s context because that's when I wrote it, right? So I didn't get to talk about, Blu-rays or DVDs. I didn't get to, I met Johnny Byrne in 1999 and we were very close friends and he became a mentor to me, until his passing in 2008. He helped me when I was having trouble developing my web series and writing my own stories. We would talk. He gave me, great pearls of wisdom about like how to solve problems and things like that. I think, oh my gosh, all that stuff, it's not in the book because the book was so far behind that, Yeah. So I've always thought I'd love to do an expanded edition of it. But
maybe let's cross our fingers.
I would love to, for sure.
So you went from that, and that was a success,
right?
So you moved on, and you've done how many reference books? I mean, I've lost count. There's so many.
I'm up to about 30 at this point.
Wow. So Blake Seven, Doctor Who, John Carpenter. I mean, the list just goes on and on. How do you? Are you assigned topics by your publisher? How do you choose?
Well, it's been different at different points in my career. My sort of standing rule has always been do something I love. Only write about things you love. And that was wonderful and so great, but also so idealistic, because then at some point more money became involved and people were like, we need a book on this. I'm like, okay.
Right, sure.
I will write a book about that. You bet I will. Thank you for
Sounds
the advance.
good.
Right. I can write that book for sure. It's terrible that, it's also a business, right?
Sure.
And you have to think about, like, this is the book you're willing to publish now, so that's the book I will write now. That was really never the case with the McFarlane books. They always pretty much supported what I could do. So, they said, after Space 1999 was a success, they said, what do you want to do next? And I said, well, I would really love to do a book about Wes Craven or Battlestar Galactica or Doctor Who. And they're like, well, why don't you do all three of those? So I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
They were kind of like your Lou Grade, the producer of Space 1999, who kind of just wrote Gerry a check to say, go do your shows.
Right. They are family to me still. I still
That's
write
amazing.
books for them. My newest from them is Horror Films of the 2000s, which will, I hope, be coming out in March or April of this year.
Great.
So I love working with them. And then I added other publishers to the mix, like Applause, and Applause has been very good to me as well. That's Applause Theater and Cinema Books. They let me explore Sam Raimi, the films of Sam Raimi, and Christopher Guest and Kevin Smith. I'm a big Elvis fan at this point, so I did the Rock and Roll Encyclopedia, and I got to write about Elvis movies. so that was a lot of fun. But it just kind of snowballed and kept going. That I went from having one publisher to two publishers to three publishers, and was just constantly, planning a book, editing a book, and writing a book at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was great, but in some sense it's also sort of unsustainable, because then I had a child.
Sure.
And we had the Great Recession. And whereas I could make a great living writing 2 books a year, now I had to write like 6 a year. And it's like, my mind isn't what it used to be. Yeah. I can't process that fast anymore. Yeah. I'm still writing. I added my blog in 2005, and it's gone for a good long time. I created the web series The House Between in 2006, and it was nominated for awards, ran for 3 seasons, and like I said, we'll bring it back as audio adventures. So I can't have any possible complaints about my life. I'll say that, or my career. I have no cause to complain. I have only cause for joy. But I do credit it all back to that beginning, to Space 1999. And my parents having the wisdom, the forethought. I don't know how they knew that would resonate with me. I mean, nobody'd seen it.
Right.
They sat me down in front of it, and I was mesmerized, and the trajectory of my life was changed at that point.
Yeah. And they supported you through it too.
Absolutely, they always
keeping you stocked with Mattel Eagles and
absolutely
and whatnot.
Yes, and lunch boxes and model kits, you name it.
A whole massive collection.
Thank you, Ben, and JKM, as I'm going to call you now.
Okay.
As we said before, John's books can be found on Amazon. Just search John Kenneth Muir. Look in the show notes for a link to his blog, and follow him on Twitter at JKMuir. And there'll be part 3 of 3 next week, wrapping things up, all things Space 1999, writing and all that sort of stuff, and what John is up to right now. But thank you, Ben. I really appreciate having a little rest. Much appreciated.
Yeah, nice, isn't it?
Now
more often.
Now I know what you feel like every week.
Zing! Right. Now, I'm going to head on over to YouTube now. This is interesting. Pod 187, I think, featured the second part of your interview with Dave from Toy Polloi, which went down very well indeed. Tom Sr. treated us to a lovely little story, saying, when my father realised I'd lost interest in Action Man, he took charge of them. He repaired, washed and ironed all the uniforms, he dressed all my figures and bagged each one with their kit. He individually bagged up all the extra uniforms, he made separate little bags with machine guns and rifles, etc. He even made up a bag of leftover bits and bobs, and together with my truck, tank, jeep, helicopter and other large pieces, he took the lot to his work during the run-up to Christmas 1976. He made a small fortune and he spent every penny he made on my brothers and me. That was a fantastic Christmas morning. Thank you, Dad. I miss you every single day.
Oh,
isn't that
that's
lovely? And that's from Tom. So a nice little story sparked from your interview with Dave there, which is rather nice.
Brilliant.
Dave himself commented beneath that video from his own Toy Polloi YouTube account with 50,000 subscribers.
Nice work.
Saying, yep, thanks for inviting me on the show. It was really great to chat with you. A highlight of my time fixing toys for sure.
Oh.
Nice. Howard Key says, hi, Jamie and Richard. It was nice to hear Harry Fielder's name mentioned this week. He says, I'd often see him in a pub on a Sunday afternoon where he would always like to recount the odd story from his career as an extra, one of the many now gone but not forgotten and always popping up in a TV repeat somewhere. It's nice, isn't it? Sort of people live on after they've gone by the work they've done.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Leaving a legacy.
Gary. Now, we were talking about Gareth Hunt playing, it turned out to be a bit of an extra role in Space 1999, having walked off from the episode, but also appearing in Doctor Who and other series. Gary says the Gareth Hunt situation is very interesting, very similar to the story of Wedge in Star Wars A New Hope, where the original actor just wasn't working out, so was replaced by Dennis Lawson, but the footage of the original Wedge wasn't reshot. So, although visually the pilot who talks to Luke during the pilot briefing could be some random character, technically it is Wedge. That's the original Wedge that you're seeing there.
I didn't know that.
Quite nice, isn't it? Ryan Kearns says Clive Hornby was a security guard in 2 episodes of Space 1999. He was then famous, much later on, as playing the role of Jack Sugden in Emmerdale.
Any relation to Molly?
I guess not. Ian Dealey says, here's a bonus fact. He says, Prentice Hancock, who played Paul Morrow, appeared in the Doctor Who story Planet of the Daleks with John Pertwee's Doctor.
Yes.
And finally, Andrew Hadow says, I don't know if this counts, but Xena guest starred in Doctor Who spin-off The Sarah Jane Adventures, which was built around Pertwee and Baker companion Liz Sladen. So that's Xena Merton, I think.
Yes,
Space
lovely Xena, yes.
Yeah. So how nice is these people, they continue to grace us with their presence, don't they?
Yes, and they're here forever as long as we can access these shows, which is rather lovely.
Exactly. Yeah. All for now, but do comment on our YouTube channel and tag us on Twitter. That's me, Richard N. James, him over there. I am Jamie Anderson, and him. Oh, he's just put his foot in that pile of sand. He's looking rather disgruntled now, isn't he?
Oh, he's kicked it everywhere.
Oh God,
all right,
torn
stress it. Calm down. I think all we've discovered here is it's very difficult to solve intractable philosophical problems.
I think.
But Chris, Richard says it's the size. It's the
Exactly, that's all it is.
Oh, he looks even more
cross
cross now.
When it's big enough. Oh dear.
He's gone the same red as the randomiser button.
He has, hasn't he? Anyway, that's Chris Dalek. Find him on Twitter, follow him, and tell him how wonderful his randomiser is. That'll cheer him up.
Yeah, he certainly needs cheering up after that disaster. Now, Chris is here, still the same colour as the big red button on the randomiser, which he's about to press. So he looks very, very angry. He's coming this way, but hopefully it'll help him choose a random Gerry Anderson episode. He's going to say some nice things. Bye, Chris. Good luck with the randomiser. Sorry, bye.
I've got a bit of sand in my mouth.
Oh dear. Oh, are you all right, Dr. Luver?
Where am I?
Oh, buried alive in a cave-in, I'm afraid. And just as you'd press the button on the randomiser. Are you okay?
Yes. I think so.
Goodo, did you still have the randomiser printout in there?
Yes. I've got it.
Right, well, if you could just pass that through to me.
But I can't move.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Let me just reach through the rocks here and grab it. Okay. Well, today's episode is from Thunderbirds, and it's alias Mr. Hackenbacker. Suppose I better go and watch it then.
Don't leave me.
DTFN.
Come back. Nothing.
So, welcome back to Thunderbirds on the randomiser with a shot of the sky and the words alias Mr. Hackenbacker. And yes, incredibly enough, this episode continues our randomiser trend of watching the second series of Thunderbirds in reverse order.
E103 is making final approach.
Which, I swear, is not planned. It's just one of these odd little quirks of the randomiser.
Crash position.
This is now the fourth of the 6 Series 2 episodes that we've done. We've only got 2 left, Path of Destruction and Atlantic Inferno. I wonder if we will keep the
Confirm undercart defect.
the watching them in reverse order trend.
Have completed crash drill.
Or if we'll fail at the last hurdle. We'll have to wait and see for when those episodes turn up. Meanwhile,
Emergency vehicles in position.
we have a fairly grim opening.
This is it.
with this plane coming in to touch down at London Airport. We know it's London Airport because we've heard Commander Norman's voice. We've seen all the familiar stock footage of emergency vehicles rushing round and so forth, but this plane crash is not going to end as well as the Fireflash touchdown did. This is a plane on fire. It's made it down, but whoa! It's now in several bits.
Gentlemen, the film you've just seen illustrates the greatest danger in any crash landing.
Big explosions.
Fire hazard. Have you found an answer with Skythrust?
Yeah, apparently that is a real
Our extensive test
piece of footage in the Thunderbirds universe. This actual, real plane disaster.
Make a statement. All in good time.
Now, you might say that that is quite grim for Thunderbirds. Presumably, a lot of people died there, but
Mr. Hackenbacker should be arriving any minute now.
you have to remember this is London Airport, under the supervision of Commander Norman. Stuff like this happens 2, 3, 4 times a week, so they're used to it.
Is Hiram K. Hackenbacker.
Meanwhile, here's Brains.
Go ahead, Mr. Hackenbacker.
Using the alias of Mr. Hackenbacker, and it is just an alias. There's no way the Brains, at least of the original series, is in any way named Hiram K. Hackenbacker. For starters, the title kind of gives that away, alias Mr. Hackenbacker.
Can I see your pass, please?
It's the same security guard from Path of Destruction, but also the fact that he and various other characters don't recognise the name or don't respond to the name throughout the rest of the story.
Right ahead, sir. You'll find the other members of the party on Building 67, observation roof.
As for other incarnations of Brains, I can't really speak to those through basic lack of interest, really, in the live action and CGI Thunderbirds. But for the original series, at least, no. He's not Hiram K. Hackenbacker. But this is his latest invention. Apparently, a plane.
Well, there she is, the Skythrust. A very nice-looking job, I may say so, Hackenbrook.
The name is Hackenbacker, actually, sir.
Yes.
And I can't really take the whole credit, you know. I only designed some of its new experimental features.
Yes, so he didn't design the whole plane, just part of it. Which part, you may ask?
The Skythrust calling control.
Well, they're not going to tell us until much, much later.
I'm ready to commence test routine.
Permission to proceed, sir?
Yes, of course. Unless Mr. Hackenbrink has any further instructions for the pilot.
Oh, I love this guy. This airport, I don't even know what this guy's job is. He's not part of the regular London Airport structure, clearly. He's Captain Saville.
Go ahead.
And good luck.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's line her up.
And his job just seems to be one of those old-fashioned Biggles-ish, pilot-ish figures that you often get in the Thunderbirds aviation scene. And we're going to spend a lot of time this episode with this aircraft, the Skythrust. And I've got to say, I've never really liked this machine.
She looks good.
No, she doesn't.
She's responding nicely.
I think she looks a bit too boxy.
Airspeed, 190 knots.
Rotate.
Yeah, I just don't like the look of Skythrust in any way, except for the lovely metallic chrome blue of much of the body, which is
By Jove.
reminds me a lot of Zero X, particularly with the red stripes at random points on the body. Anyway, this plane has taken off.
Leveling up.
Truly a momentous occasion for all concerned. And the cockpit of the Skythrust is, I believe,
Just couldn't fault that takeoff.
a reworking of the Zero X cockpit.
Behavior. Though, as far as I am concerned, the full test of her abilities has yet to come.
How do you mean, Mr. Hackenbacker? What's special about Skythrust that we haven't heard about? I'm afraid we can't answer that yet. As Captain Saville said, Skythrust does incorporate certain new features, but we're not in a position to divulge these at present.
You must wait until the end of the episode.
When is the Skythrust due to come into service? Very soon indeed. There are a few formalities, certificate of airworthiness and so forth.
Oh, it's a formality. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Make sure the thing's actually safe to fly, but that's a minor concern. It's minor.
Our Hear the latest from Ashton.
All right, Hackenbacker. See you later.
I like seeing as well in this observation deck at London Airport, lots of familiar puppets. The guy who drove the crab logger and Dick O'Shea from Atlantic Inferno is there, and one of the crew from Ocean Pioneer, and one puppet with a very big forehead who seems to have... I think he was in Thunderbird 6.
Today at London International Airport.
In the very scary laughing scene.
Rumor in aviation circles has it that the Skythrust has some revolutionary new features. But Hiram K. Hackenbacker, the brilliant American designer and a well-known man of mystery, would give no information about the aircraft he has played a large part in designing.
Does it say when the Skythrust goes into service?
I want to ride on it.
My brains are staying on in Europe.
It says, very soon it is expected that the first flight will be London-bound from Paris.
I love all this,
Look!
Oh, Penelope's on the cover of a magazine.
That's something.
Yeah, much more interesting than Brains' stupid plane.
Feature about Penelope.
Oh,
Everyone's in the news this week.
Except me.
Excitement in the Paris.
Yeah, I love all this. Skythrust has some very revolutionary features. No one's going to talk about it. I would love it if people had built this plane up and then it was just...
In a charity...
I don't know, something about the bathroom was different, or they had a flavour of cookie that you couldn't get anywhere else or something.
You have Penelope and I always mentioning him. He's a favourite Paris designer.
But here the story is going to take an abrupt turn from exciting new aircraft developments...
Yeah. I wonder what it'll be.
To the Paris fashion scene. Yeah, poor old Tintin is now firmly relegated into, oh, wonderful dresses, oh, cool disc jockey, he's minty, rather than, you know, the intelligent engineer scientist she was in the first series. Now she just sits there and reads magazines
As soon as I received your...
about her friend, because her friend wouldn't dream of inviting her along to meet this man that they apparently both talk about all the time, Francois Lemaire.
Now, what wonderful surprises have you got in store for us this season?
I promise you, my creations will go down in history.
So I'm torn with this, because on the one hand I really like
Some of my rivals would give
Ray Barrett's performance here as Francois Lemaire. On the other hand, and this may be a gender thing, perhaps, the fashion stuff just leaves me absolutely cold. And we are going to spend much of our time this episode...
Does it mean?
...at a fashion show.
Are being bugged.
Oh no.
I don't understand. What is this bug?
And it's slightly different from the situation we had in Model Spy, because although it was a very similar setup, we're in the fashion world, here's this French designer guy, but there was enough mystery and action along with that to...
I may have found their little secret.
To keep our interest, or keep my interest at least. These very long scenes...
I've believed it!
...of Penelope and Francois slowly... It's not just the fashion stuff, it's this business of slowly plodding round the room, discovering bug after bug after bug. And I know there's one or two very quotable lines in here, but I really just want to skip over the next 10 minutes, because I know...
I see.
There's not really much here.
But not quite clever enough.
Uh-huh.
Peeping Toms.
Yeah, close the curtains, that'll take care of that.
Under constant surveillance from a long-range television camera.
Oh mon Dieu. Oh.
All right, Francois, go ahead.
Good.
So, this Francois guy has developed a great secret.
I shall commit my great secret to Pepper.
Right, he's going to write it down for us now.
Let me see.
I have designed a new
Francois,
form.
stop.
Oh.
Please show me that pen.
Pen examinations. Thunderbirds, everybody! Yeah, this is an episode that I feel raises the question, was Thunderbirds running out of ideas by this point?
How long have you had this pen?
And I'm not entirely sure of the answer, because following this we get Lord Parker's Holiday, and then we get Ricochet, which I think is a real return to form. But for there only to be 6 episodes in the second series, okay, one is a Christmas episode, which kind of explains the fact that it's not all that Thunderbirds-y, but this one, it's not only deathly dull through this fashion world stuff, but also the Skythrust element is very reminiscent of the Fireflash stuff that we've seen before.
Record and transmit anything that the writer commits to paper.
So I don't know. Were they running out of ideas by this point?
Moment.
It's one of those questions we'll never get answered, because whether they had more ideas or not, they didn't have the chance to realise them, because we only got 6 episodes of Thunderbirds Series 2. Meanwhile, Francois's pen has also been revealed to be a bug. But Penelope has written out the message, "It will take better men than you to find out our secrets."
Bugs in the flowers, peeping Thomases at the windows, pens that send messages. I need reviving.
That's a lovely line. Yes, monsieur. Ah, Autons.
Yes, ma sweet.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. The look of the fashion models in this story, they are quite terrifying.
These are my 2 leading models, Madeleine and Deirdre.
Try not to scream.
And they know your secret?
Indeed they do. And this, at last, my dear Penelope, is my secret.
Oh, better check for bugs.
Dear Francois.
What is it? It's a small box. I mean, am I being unfair? Are there people who really find the fashion world side of this interesting and an interesting diversion and a nice break from the norm for Thunderbirds? Or does it get to a point where you almost feel like you're watching the Penelope show?
My new fibre, Penelon. I named it after you, Penelope.
Oh,
I hope you...
Which is so far from the basic idea of Thunderbirds that it is almost like watching a different series.
Penelon can be made into any kind of costume desire.
And I remember feeling this even as a kid the first time I saw this, over 30 years ago now. Just where did Thunderbirds go? Bring back my Thunderbirds.
Why, I could carry a whole wardrobe around with me in my handbag.
Ah, yay, miracles of science.
Muriel, just look at this.
What is it?
This looks like an ensemble made of leather.
Yes.
Though in fact it is made entirely of Penelon.
Oh, how marvelous.
Here are some other designs in the collection. All made of Penelon.
I'm going to wet myself. Yes, oh no, these are just drawings of clothes. Oh, including one of a lady wearing a sort of fabric cloth hat thing. It makes her look like she's got a huge brain, almost like a Telosian from Star Trek.
Tea. How civilized. Do you take sugar, Lady Penelope? Well, 1 lump wouldn't do any harm, I suppose.
And I think this is also the reason we're focusing so extensively on the fashion side of things.
Penelope.
Oh, there's a bug in a sugar cube. Is probably the Andersons or whoever wanted to show off the skill of their designers, and that's fine, that's great, but it does overwhelm the story. But it's not just the costume designs as well. I think at this point in Thunderbirds you're seeing a kind of evolution of the sets as well. I was noticing there are some stairs out on Francois's balcony leading upwards, wooden stairs with no handrails and as such, and they reminded me a lot of the
So just the top of the Eiffel Tower?
The room layouts in Captain Scarlet and Joe 90. I really feel there's a shift in the visual aesthetics
Of interruption.
going into the second series of Thunderbirds that you then see in those shows.
But first of all, I shall have to contact a friend.
Yay! London!
Well, Skythrust is ready to go into service immediately.
The final tip.
Did we get that certificate of airworthiness?
I have. I must offer you my congratulations once again, Mr.
A call for Mr. Hackenbacker, sir. If you'd like to take it outside.
So Savile doesn't know who Brains is.
Mr. Hackenbacker?
And even Brains doesn't know who Brains is supposed to be because it's an alias.
Oh, yeah, that's me. A number 3 phone, of course.
But it is surprising how...
Bears out what I've always said.
And what is that?
People with good intellects often have no head for names.
See, this is a nice guest character. In very few scenes, relatively few scenes, really. But,
Go ahead, Quella.
Oh, what was I going to say? I've forgotten.
Are you?
But it is surprising how many people genuinely think that is Brains' actual real name, considering all the evidence to the contrary in this episode.
Got a big favour to ask.
I think it's probably more the effects of spin-off media. Meanwhile, we are back in Paris. I love the streets of Paris in Thunderbirds. And it looks like we are back at the same restaurant we were at for Perils of Penelope. Again, seeing some familiar faces in the customers at this restaurant, including Dick O'Shea again.
But you haven't explained how you came to know Hiram Hackenbacker.
Mr. Ashton, you must allow...
There's Cass Carnaby, Eddie Kerr.
Let me just say that he and I are associates.
Well, Hiram's quite a dark horse. Boy, what brains that fellow had.
Aha.
Oh, now, about the scheme of...
And this is, of course, the...
Seems a lot of trouble to go to just for a fashion show.
Only episode of Thunderbirds to feature voices by Paul Maxwell. It is the only one, isn't it? Yeah.
Let be all, monsieur?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Obviously, he did Thunderbirds Are Go as well. But yeah, nice to see him in an episode. What's this? Oh, is there another bug?
I'll get you to read it, lady. There's another of them transmitters bugging you.
The coffee pot. It must be the coffee pot.
Oh, it's another suspicious waiter. I also, and I may have said it before, as much as I love Barry Gray, I hate it when he does this. I'm not sure if I hate it or if it was just overused.
I don't understand.
That
the waiter
beep 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 in music when when we're sending a message, and it came up a lot in Joe 90 as well.
And even if you did, he'd tell us nothing.
Ooh.
Now do you see how important this fashion show is?
It's the most important thing in the world.
Must switch the location of the preview.
World safety depends on it. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care about clothes. I mean, if you've seen me, you know I don't care about clothes. It's so dull. So, with,
okay,
two fairly separate plots.
Got a couple of telegrams for you, sir.
Trying to coexist here.
Opening night. Everybody wishes everybody else good luck.
Okay, let's get the freight deck loaded.
Yes, sir.
So that's Mason, the steward. Yeah, very much reminiscent of Zero X close-ups on Skythrust's rear section as it opens a ramp for vehicles to board.
Oh dear, I have the butterflies in my stomach every time before a new collection is shown. Deirdre, are the costumes still all right?
Perfectly all right.
See, because Penelon is small, you can get more clothes into smaller boxes. You see. Again, it's not enough material to build an episode around, I don't think.
Oh yes, belady.
I do find this an interesting misfire for the show. I think they've sort of... I appreciate that they're trying to incorporate essentially, and I may be overstepping the point here, but I appreciate that they are kind of
Lady Penelope is
making an effort here to include perhaps more material.
Oh yes, the airline people have done a beautiful conversion
For an audience of girls, essentially. All these lovely clothes and pretty dresses. But I don't know. I think they've gone a bit too far with this.
Now remember, Penelope. You must go and get changed as soon as we've leveled out.
Don't worry, Francois.
The safety of the world depends upon it.
How about the music? Is it going to be all right?
Mason the steward is taking care of that. He's new to the airline, but I've explained how the cues will go.
A new steward? This is an interesting point to note as Skythrust takes to the air for its first commercial flight. And again, it really lacks the weight and majesty of the same thing with the Fireflash in the very first episode.
The Skythrust should have left Paris by now, Tintin.
Anyway, Tintin has been allowed out of her cage.
Hearing about the dress show.
Oh.
Well...
remember, Tintin, when you used to be interested in mechanical engineering?
The plane.
Aren't you excited, Brains?
That lobotomy seems to have really taken with you. I miss the first series Tintin. And I suspect that, again, it's probably a consequence of pushing Penelope so much into the foreground. Tintin kind of recedes, but I do wish they'd kept them more as a pair, the way they were in the Cham Cham. I think they complemented each other quite well, and...
pleats and the slim-shaped bodies. The skirt flares slightly at the hem.
Now we are actually watching puppets put on a fashion show.
Say, this Penelon is a sensation. It's the biggest thing in fabric development since the cotton mill.
My God, I'm so excited about this Penelon!
Alligator attack. This is strictly for wearing after dark.
Oh.
And number 36.
It just keeps going. I've skipped at least 2 costume reveals here. But it just keeps going. It keeps cutting to the plane and cutting back to the costumes. Is something going to happen? The plane is turning. The plane is turning. Okay.
Proceeding now to London. ETA 15 minutes.
London Control to Skythrust.
And here's an old face.
On our radar, provisional runway allocation number.
It's Lieutenant Burrows from Operation Crash Dive.
There's Mr. Hackenbacker here who sends his best to you.
He's assistant controller in the tower at London Airport.
Cute little number he's escorting.
They've got just about the biggest bottle of champagne you've ever seen.
It's clearly the same puppet, and I suspect Ray Barrett is just doing a generic voice without realising this is a character he's played before. But the puppet does look a bit glammed up. It does look like he's had a bit of cosmetic surgery done.
Just wait till the...
since Operation Crash Dive.
This Penelon.
Where's Madeline got to?
Oh, I haven't a clue, darling. Haven't a clue. I haven't seen her since the show.
Maybe she died of boredom. Oh no, she's gone up to the flight deck.
May I come through? You don't mind me taking a quick look in the flight deck?
Well, I guess it'll be all right. Take her down.
What here? Oh, you mean the plane?
Just where they are.
Oh.
Hey, what is this?
She's got a gun.
This is just the end of part 1, my friend. Part 2 of the journey is just beginning.
Oh.
I think you'd better give me that.
You're a girl and might do something naughty with the gun.
We are not going to London.
Thank goodness she waited until after the dress show to do this. I couldn't have bared it if she'd interrupted the dress show.
Now, set a course. We haven't got time to waste.
Don't fool yourself into thinking you'll get away with this on your own.
I was Steve Zodiac, and I can take you any day.
Who said I was alone?
You idiot! This is an outrage!
When I want your opinion, I'll ask for it.
Ah, Mason the steward is also in on the plot.
No one in this aircraft's going to get hurt, not if they're sensible. There's just been a slight change in plans.
It always surprises me when I rewatch this that Deirdre, the other Auton model, wasn't involved in this. I remember her being in on the scheme with Madeline.
The entire collection.
Oh, no.
This Penelon stuff is too good a haul to lose.
Oh, fashion world espionage. It's exciting, damn it. It's not exciting, really.
Don't get any clever idea about the radio. It wouldn't do much good anyway. There isn't a person in this world can help you now.
Ooh. Well, there's this thing called International Rescue. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. They used to do sort of rescue things in this show called Thunderbirds. But we're now 33 minutes into this episode, and they're still sitting around on Tracy Island.
We must do something, Penelope.
There is one chance.
Ah. Well, it's nice that she finally remembered she's an agent of international rescue.
It's Penelope. She's in trouble. I thought it was a little too peaceful around here.
What are we waiting?
I thought she'd get herself into difficulty sooner or later.
I'm on my way.
You too, Virgil.
Yes, sir.
I'll contact Alan and send him down.
Sure thing.
Oh. That was interesting. New footage of Virgil talking as he was lifted up on the painting. Normally they just stick to stock footage, but I guess because Series 2 Virgil looks so different from Series 1, it was worth reshooting that shot. So, Alan gets to
Contact Brains in London to see if he's any idea what's gone wrong.
join Virgil on this mission.
Penelope's signal as soon as you can.
I love that nobody as yet actually knows what's happened, but because Penelope's involved, it's all hands on deck.
This aircraft will soon be tracked down.
Now, that's where you're wrong.
I won't stand for this fashion show being interrupted.
I have a bearing on Skythrust, Father.
Right.
40 degrees. 18 minutes.
40 degrees, 18 minutes. When we hear from Virgil, we'll be able to pinpoint Skythrust's exact position.
Yay, position plotting.
Father? Right on cue. 023
Poor old Gordon. There's another character who's trying his best to stay relevant to the show and failing quite spectacularly.
023 degrees.
17 minutes.
For the Sahara. Why?
Did you get that, someone? 023.17. What's that? What's that from? That's Captain Grey reporting in Captain Black's position to Colonel White in Manhunt.
I'm in number 3 tracking vehicle. We have a bearing of
023 degrees, 17 minutes.
Did you get that, Colonel?
023.17. Yes, thank you, Captain.
Sand. Nothing but sand.
Stop griping, Russ. Get on that radio.
Strange piece of dialogue to for them to repeat in a later episode.
Nice rust. Come in, please.
Meanwhile, in the middle of the desert,
There's no answer.
are these
That
two
thing's got a limited range, remember?
naughty gentlemen.
This is International Rescue calling Skythrust.
International Rescue?
Who are they?
Loud and clear, International Rescue.
Request you return to London, Skythrust.
And if we don't, what then?
I'm afraid we'll have to take action to force you to.
Oh,
You trying to kid?
Your job is to save lives, not to risk them.
that's where you're wrong.
Well, I have a feeling we can bluff them for a bit. Brains has an idea. He's telling Virgil about it now.
Oh yeah, Brains. Ostensibly the focus of this story.
What I'm gonna ask you to do will sound crazy, but I've a hunch it'll work.
Take off your pants. Then,
I want you to load up a low-velocity, non-explosive missile and take a pot shot at Skythrust's undercut.
Sounds pretty risky, Brains.
Now, don't worry, Virgil. It'll be all right. Just trust Mr. Hackenbacker.
Okay, then. Hire him.
so, Brains has a plan?
8 minutes from touchdown.
We won't be able to land. The runway wasn't built for a jet this size.
A good try, Ashton, but it won't work. This is Skythrust.
I've got to say I've thoroughly lost interest by this point.
This is Skythrust calling Sahara. Come in, please.
It's them. Answer it.
Hello.
And I don't know if it's because of this mishmash of ideas that don't work, at least don't work together.
Fine. Is everything okay?
The repetitive feel of this plane hijacking subplot.
Not even international rescue.
Or the fact that it's taken international rescue so long to show up.
Look, a Thunderbird.
Oh, and there's a rare occasion of, somebody referring to an international rescue vehicle as a Thunderbird, or the Thunderbirds.
This time, Alan?
FAB?
Both happened, at least once in the show. And these shots of Thunderbird 2 banking and weaving around Skythrust, I've got to say, I adore Thunderbird 2. She has never looked so bad as she does in this sequence. She looks so small. there's none of that weight and grandeur that you associate with the craft.
I'll do it.
Oh, she's threatening to put a bullet through Ashton's head. Cliffhanger music tells us she means business. But, I still don't care. Yeah, oh dear, Thunderbird 2. Small and weaving and wobbling.
It was Brain's idea, Alan.
Right. Let's get back after them.
So, weaving and wobbling didn't work. Let's try shooting.
I'll keep in the blind spot below their tail.
Missile away!
Oh, they blew a hole in it.
What was that?
The wheel housing's locked.
No matter how many times I flick the switch, it won't clear.
And it means we can't land in the Sahara. Not with an undercart malfunction.
Don't try and blind me with science.
Blinded me with science.
Get Mason in here. You say he knows about these things?
I think...
Mason knows about undercart things. He's a man, you know.
I hope you know what you're doing. We may not fool Mason. He could know about the Hackenbacker device.
It's a pretty well-kept secret. I'm betting he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's something else that hasn't been mentioned much in the story recently. The amazing, unique feature of Skythrust.
Mason?
Which was, again, they promote it so heavily at the start of the story. I kind of understand the fact that it hasn't been mentioned for quite a while, because you can't keep doing that throughout a whole story. This very important secret thing, very important secret thing, very important thing, can't tell you.
Now, if you can tell me how to land this aircraft on the desert airstrip, miles from anywhere, without wheels, you better tell me now.
Young man.
All right, head for London.
Now wait a minute.
Shut up! I've seen a plane go up, and I don't want to be in this one when it does.
The rendezvous was with two characters named Ross and Collins.
They both had records as long as you're armed. They're wanted for murder, amongst other things. Why don't you boys play them a call?
Oh, that'd be nice.
Will do.
They're going out to see Ross and Collins. Yeah, these are two villains waiting in the desert, played by...
I'm worried, Brains.
Well, both played by puppets who always played villains in this show. Nearly always.
What is so special about Skythrust?
Just wait and see, Tintin.
Why can't you tell me now? We're just sitting at the end of a runway doing nothing. We could have an interesting conversation.
Touchdown.
No. Keep waiting. Oh, dear.
How much fuel left?
Just under half.
Yeah, it is such a night and day difference, this, compared to Trapped in the Sky. When you're invested all the way through with the plight of this plane, and, you know, the bomber board and such. Here, we have an undercart malfunction, and there's no...
The fuel.
What about it?
Can't we ditch some overboard, like Mason said?
Well, there's no real tension here.
You are so worried, why don't you get back in the rear? It's the safest place.
I think because we're waiting for some kind of reveal of what this amazing new safety feature is, you know, it's largely the same setup, and in fact in this episode we're spending more time with the people on the plane than we did in Trapped in the Sky. If you watch Trapped in the Sky, you don't really see Tintin and anyone else aboard the plane except for for Captain Hansen and the co-pilot. We've spent more time with these people, and yet somehow I'm less invested. Perhaps because it is just such an obvious reuse of the Trapped in the Sky formula. And that's it, the plane has touched down with no undercart, and here we go! The big secret, it has a...
There she goes, take it up to 40,000 feet on 320.
A wobbly bit on the back that takes off, containing the fuel, thus ensuring that the fuel does not explode. Wasn't that worth waiting for? And now all we have is an out-of-control plane tearing down the runway. It also raises the question, you know what would have been really useful for this plane that had a problem with its undercart? If you had these, like, elevator cars that it could land on. No, we're not going to do that this time.
1,000 gallons. You've got to hand it to Hackenbacker. His ejectable fuel pod to eliminate power hazard really works. It will revolutionize flying safety.
Suddenly, I'm quite prepared to talk about this to anyone who'll listen, including looking directly at the camera to tell the audience how wonderful it is.
Penelope.
Fine. It was no worse than 1 or 2 conventional landings I've experienced.
But yeah, why not send Thunderbird 2 back to London and deploy the elevator cars? Okay, granted, they probably weren't on board, but that was like the ideal chance to use them again. Why are you not using them?
What about their accomplices?
Anyway.
I'm sure they'll be well taken care of, Francois.
And by taken care of, I of course mean murdered.
Yeah, I never liked the idea. Stuck out here in the desert. Quiet!
It is a bit random as well, these guys just dumped in the middle of nowhere with a truck. Waiting to meet Skythrust. Here comes an aircraft.
And remember, use a live missile this time, Alan.
We want no survivors, Alan.
They're coming in again.
Yeah, so we're coming up to a moment where International Rescue are going to open fire with live ammunition on two guys. Because, you know, Jeff Tracy was all about saving human life, no matter what the cost. We've been told that these are very naughty men, though, so let's blow up their car, leaving them stranded in the desert, presumably with no way to get home.
Mission accomplished, Father.
Presumably no water.
Well, that just about wraps the whole thing up.
Another job well done. We killed 2 men.
Most of all. Well,
we could have brought them to justice, but I prefer swift, brutal, shooting at them from the sky justice.
Air safety.
Much more satisfying.
Hacker, have you anything you'd like to say?
Oh, yeah. Why don't we all go over to the Starlight roof and have a bite to eat? I'm starving.
I do like this ending with all of our...
Still got that bottle of champagne to open. Vintage 1993.
Our good characters waiting in the airport control tower.
Did I hear someone mention champagne?
Yes, Francois. Just follow Penelope.
Oh, that dearest girl. I would follow her to the edges of the earth.
How does anyone get into and out of this tower, by the way?
Escort you to the Starlight roof?
Why, certainly. I'd be delighted, Mr. Hackenbacker.
Ah.
You know, you can call me Hiram.
Why, thank you, Hiram.
Oh, I like that. I like that. That's a nice note to end the episode on, with a bit of flirting between Brains and Tintin. Well, not. It's not even flirting, it's just a bit of affectionate banter. Anyway, that was Alias Mr. Hackenbacker, and I think you can tell by the way that I've not only been talking about this in fairly negative terms, but I feel I've really struggled to keep going by the end of this. This is, you know, I didn't remember it as a particularly good episode. I'm surprised how hard it's been for me to get through this today. Maybe watching an episode, just sitting there passively absorbing it, as opposed to doing a commentary in real time. They are two different things, really. But this one saps all my energy and enthusiasm by about the 10-minute mark. I think it is because we've just got these ideas that we've either ideas that we've seen before, or ideas that don't really fit the Thunderbirds world. Throw them all together and we just end up with something that feels old and tired and predictable. So yeah, apologies to anyone who likes this one, but there's very little here for me to enjoy, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh, it's been a while since Thunderbirds, hasn't it?
Yeah, there we are. Yeah,
very nice
has.
to have. Thank you, Chris. And a nice brains-focused story, which we all love. Nice bit of David Graham, the lovely David Graham.
Exactly. Thunderbirds is really kind of like the tent pole, isn't it, of the Gerry Anderson universe, do you think, in the centre of everything?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's fair to say,
it's been referred to as the jewel in the crown.
Sure.
Tent pole sounds a little bit more mundane.
Village fair.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, one of those two things. Anyway, Chris will be back next week, and if you want to listen just to Chris and not to me and Richard, which I would totally understand, then you can find Chris's very own podcast, just with his randomizers, which is the Gerry Anderson Randomiser podcast with Chris Dale. Just go and find it and subscribe and listen there. And you can hear back in time from previous randomizers from about a year ago, where Chris reposts them every week on a Sunday.
That's right, yes, and he tweets them as well. He tweets the latest look back.
Very tweety.
Yes, worth following, definitely. Very tweety.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm all done for now, but do send your emails to podcast@gerryanderson.com. I'll read them out next time. It's always lovely to hear from our Podsterons, because without you, we wouldn't have a podcast. And that's a fact.
It's the does a fallen tree make a sound sort of thing. Is there a podcast without listeners? I don't think so.
Well, no, exactly. Yeah. There isn't.
So thanks, Podsterons. Do please this week recommend this podcast to a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
good idea.
If you know someone that hates Gerry Anderson stuff and they're an enemy of yours, then also recommend the podcast to them. We'd really appreciate it.
Do people have enemies like that? I don't know, do they? Do you have an enemy? I bet you have an arch enemy, don't you?
Not really.
Oh.
I don't think
Can
so.
I be your arch enemy?
Oh, I'd love that, yes. You'd be a good one. Oh, look at his, he's cracked out his only laugh. Nice, very good.
Yeah. Oh, well, I thought I'd save it for last.
Yeah, that was excellent. And what a great note to end things on. I can't do any.
What a treat.
Similar laughs, other than Muttley, which I do by mistake sometimes. Right, anyway, that's it. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com. Hopefully, next week we'll read out some of your hankering emails from Pod 188. As you remember last week, everyone had hankerings.
That's right. They did. Well, you certainly did.
Yes, and any other tweets and emails and stuff you send us for next week for Pod 190. Just 10 away from 200. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. That's crazy.
That's very exciting. Who knows what will happen for the 200th? Probably another episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, let's not raise anyone's hopes.
All right, deal. Right, goodbye, Podsteron. We'll be in your ears next week. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Silly. Very silly.
It's an excellent Ainley laugh, though. I mean,
I can't actually do any of his dialogue.
What does that not set you up to do it?
Oh, my dear doctor, you have been naive.
I think that's pretty damn good.
It's kind of slimy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how you,
so what I want you to do now is
yes.
Patrick Troughton.
Oh yes, all right.
Versus Ainley Master.
Oh, right. But I can only do 2 words as Troughton, and I can only do Ainley's laugh. Right, okay, yeah.
With Terry Wogan as the guest companion.
Wow.
Can you
right,
ad-lib a scene? Yeah, okay, over to you.
Definitely. Here we go. Jamie? Zoe? The old Wogan, eh? There you go. It didn't make much sense. It didn't make any narrative sense at all.
I was hoping that Terry was going to come in and say, Doctor, get down, and then we could put a sound effect in. And
Well, you're hoping for too much, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'd say that was pretty good, though.
I'm not a performing seal. I'm not here just for your pleasure.
Well, you gave me a small amount of pleasure with that little ad-lib scene, so thank you very much indeed.
I'm going to get on the phone to Nick Briggs. I reckon they're missing a trick here.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, what are they called?
Well, you would call it Woebegone, wouldn't you?
Woebegone.
Woebegone, the second Doctor Adventures. Yeah, that would work.
Brilliant. Okay.
I like it. I'd buy it.
Let's pitch it to Nick Briggs right now. You write it. I'll get on the phone to him. We'll set up a call.
Brilliant.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right.
Speak to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.